Dying Light 2 is all about melee combat, but there is a class that you can really work towards, and that's Ranger, but it's going to take a bit of time before you can get the bow. In fact, you have to complete about 8 hours of the story first. It's basically tied to your character level, which needs to be level 3. But once you've got it, you can go ahead and get a whole bunch of different upgrade arrows, and you can go ahead and get all sorts of different bows from traders and find them out in the open world. I'm also going to give you a little rundown on what's going on with the semi-automatic crossbow. So just by going through the story bits, you eventually get the mission Let's Waltz. You can maybe do this in maybe 6 to 7 hours if you really speed run through all the story quest lines. Otherwise, I wouldn't say you definitely need it in the early stages. But basically, after a good run of story content, you will end up at the quarry, and here you're going to meet one of the main bad guys. It might take you anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour to complete this one mission, and it basically unlocks the next region. You should get a bow as a reward. I got the pipe bow, and you'll also get the blueprint to craft and make your own arrows, as well as some extra ones. So at the first major settlement, when you've got to the brand new zone, you'll be able to go ahead and get a artifact bow from one of the traders. Not 100% sure if this is completely random, but I do know you can get other bows from other traders as well, different qualities and types. Now, bows aren't something that you can modify. Instead, you actually just craft different types of arrows. But you're going to need to buy the blueprints for them. I've got an infected arrow here that's 1500 gold coins. Then you've got the toxic arrows that are 1000 gold coins. And then you've got fire arrows, which you'll be able to craft and make yourself once you buy these blueprints from a craft master. So yeah, make sure you're actually getting the blueprints. I would suggest doing that. It's worth it. And then you can go ahead and craft your own arrows rather than spending all your money on other arrows first. If you just want to mess around, see if it's the class for you, then of course you can go ahead and just craft some normal arrows, and they're going to cost feathers and obviously some other stuff too, but generally the feathers will be a new resource that you get from all sorts of birdhouses, basically places where you get honey and chamomile. You'll now find feathers on some of them locations. Then it's time to finally start using all that ranger gear that you've been maybe hoarding. Ranger class is all about reducing your stamina costs so you can hold the bow longer to aim up shots and possibly giving you a little bit more damage. There's lots of stuff here as soon as you get to level 3 that you get much more damage with the ranged weapons than in previous levels. More Captain Obvious tips, but you can use your arrows to set off explosions by shooting at the gas canisters, so it's a great way to take care of a whole bunch of them, although I find that gas canisters don't do as much damage as you would think to rotten dead flesh. And you can zoom in with the bow, or you're meant to be able to anyway, so if you want to get more precise shots you should be able to. If you're high enough, you will not aggravate a whole bunch of zombies. This is great, especially for the GRE anomaly zones. You might even be able to take out some of the hardest ones without even getting anywhere close or any of them coming to chase you. And like I said, there's a whole bunch of different bows. So I've got a sporty one here, but I know there's a rust one. And you can find lots of bows near military crates in the second zone in the loop, especially when you go up to high some skyscrapers, or go ahead and just buy them from the vendors like I said. To change ammo, you need to bring up the weapon wheel and then RB or LB, L1, R1 to cycle through whatever arrows there are. There's toxic, there's exploding, there's lacerating, shock arrows, fire arrows, and probably the most useless so far, well maybe I'll get better use out of it in the future, is the infected arrows. You may have already built up a little collection of different arrows as well as crossbow bolts for the crossbow, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But regular arrows you craft simply with feathers and scrap. And again, as mentioned, you'll get plenty of feathers in some higher places where you don't get honey. So the infected arrows, why are they useless? Well, they cost infected trophies. So I've got a fair amount of them. You get 3 out of it, and it basically transforms a human enemy into an infected. And I had the toxic blueprint at this point as well, which you're going to need cleaning supplies, which are fairly hard to get hold of, not as easy. I didn't have any on me, surprisingly. So with my infected arrow equipped, I decided to get a bit of practice in, but make sure you're choosing the right target. I was just going after some poor harmless NPC here, thinking it was some sort of bandit, and obviously not. Arrows will absolutely murder NPCs, friendlies, easily. I eventually found someone a bit more worthy of taking an arrow to the knee, or to the head in this case, and this was the infected one. It takes a good few seconds for the infection to set in. You can see he's running after me still, so it definitely hasn't taken hold, and then he crouches to the floor, and it's going to take another few seconds for him to actually turn. So why don't I like this? Well, he doesn't do that much. He'll go after people nearby, so it can be as a distraction, so it could be good. And maybe if you've got a whole bunch of these, you could have fun using them to turn a whole group of humans into the infected. But he'll just run around, maybe causing a bit of confusion, and he'll also still come and attack you if he sees you. So I guess it is a diversion tactic. If you do want to get rid of some, then maybe that would be the way to use it. But for the cost of the uncommon trophies from the zombies, yeah, I don't know if it's that worth it. He definitely has a lot more health though. You can see he just got whacked by one of his own teammates and it didn't do much damage at all. Arrows and bows are a little bit just not that strong. You definitely have to work towards building a proper ranger class in having lots of ranger gear equipped with high damage. Otherwise it's always going to take at least 2 arrows to take down most enemies until you get much more advanced gear later on. I guess the last good thing about them is that there's no durability on them, so you don't have to worry about your bows breaking. You simply get them and you can keep them forever. So what about that crossbow? It's a semi-automatic one and you basically got to do a whole ton of stuff for peacekeepers. You've got to transfer some of the faculty zones over to them and get it up to level 4 before you get access to the crossbow. You'll then be able to make elemental bolts for it as well, or buy blueprints for them. So through the course of the story, there's like 2 or 3 of these that you might have to do, but then afterwards you've got to go and search them out yourself to actually get them ready. So it's usually like the water tower or the electrical places and transfer them over to a faction. So if you want that crossbow, then absolutely make sure you side with the peacekeepers up to level 4 first. So at the moment I'm enjoying my parkour and a little bit of melee combat. Once I've delved deeper into the bows, I'll give you a complete guide on all the elemental arrow types, how to craft them, find the resources to make them. And I am absolutely going to home in now on the peacekeeper missions just to show you differences between the crossbow. I know there's a couple special bows that you can get, but they're supposedly very late game, so I'll be looking at getting them and showing you them as well. So I hope you found this useful. Check out the rest of my guides and I'll see you rat bags later.